Welcome to the Defense and Aerospace Report. I'm Vago Muradian here at the Association of the United States Army's annual meeting and trade show in Washington, D.C. Our coverage here is sponsored by AM General, Elbit Systems of America, General Motors Hydrotech, L3 Technologies, and Leonardo DRS. And we're here with my friend Joe Bogosian, who is the president and CEO of Optics 1, which is a Safran company. Joe, thanks very much for making time for us.
Thank you very much, Vago. Great to be here.
So you guys won, when you took over the business, I think it's safe to say that it faced some challenges. You worked very, very hard to address your guys' footprint, did a wash on the manpower needs, and you guys came up with a product that won a $305 million contract, which marked a real turnaround for the business. It was known as Vectronics, which was the Swiss name of the Safran subsidiary you were working on, but Optics 1 was also one of the American companies that was a key component of that. You're up in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, or you're up in New Hampshire. Talk to us a little bit about what it took, how you reorganized the company, how you got the footing back, and how you guys targeted that LTLM2, the Laser Target Locator Module 2, which was such a key win for you guys.
Sure. I think first and foremost what we had to do was combine the two companies into one. We could not survive with two separate companies trying to do one job in two halves of a building. So I think the critical step was to merge the two companies, keep the Optics 1 name. Our Vectronics heritage is always there. Vectronics AG, our Swiss sister company, is always there. But with Optics 1, we were able to combine all the engineering talents that came with Optics 1 with the full program management and production and supply chain and quality activities and capabilities of Vectronics into one unit.
And from an engineering standpoint, it was a very hard-fought competition. Elbit's one of our sponsors. You guys had a very hard-fought battle and won that. What are some of the things that you think gave you guys the edge to win that contract?
Well, in terms of just how we pursue things, number one, invest in talent, retain talent. And number two, make sure that you are in very close communications with the customer. You know exactly what the customer wants, where the customer is trying to go. Listen, don't assume. And I think that was a critical factor in the victory of LTLM2, that we built a product to the needs of the customer as we listened to the customer and what they wanted to achieve.
Are some of these competitions a challenge when they're supposed to start as sort of a commercial thing, but they do adapt? They don't adapt as much as they used to, but you guys are still doing some development work on the product. Or is that just the way business is going to be going into the future, that it's not going to be as formalized, it's going to be a little bit more informal in how these processes work as the Army tries to sort of control its requirements, but also control its costs?
Sure, I think we have to be ready for whatever way that the U.S. military is going to approach us, the providers of solutions. Whether that is an RFP, a formal RFP, whether that's a COTS, or whether it's some sort of amalgam somewhere in between the two. Whichever way they want to go, we have to go with them. And if we are serious about winning, we have to be serious about investing. And for us, we have followed up the victory on LTLM2 with a series of additional victories with some of our other products you see here.
Including you guys have a sniper kit that you guys won, a Marine Corps product with a Bluetooth wind speed and direction indicator, which is actually pretty cool. And then this is the next big thing, isn't it? As you guys are like sort of gearing up for the next big competition.
Sure. What we're proud about is that we are a global company. We're part of a global company. We are homegrown in Bedford, New Hampshire, and yet we can tap into a global capabilities. So with regard to the iCougar that you just mentioned, the sniper rangefinder, that's pure homegrown, designed, developed in Bedford, New Hampshire. With regard to the LTLM2, we take components from our Swiss sister company and we Americanize them in Bedford. We turn them into what the U.S. Army wants. And this is a similar product here that starts off as a French product, but someday we think that it could become an American product, and we can talk to the U.S. customer and to the U.S. military as to what they need and what they see as the components of this that we can adapt to the U.S. Army's needs.
You served in the Bush administration. There's a new Republican administration in. Bush administration tried very, very hard to be very open, very international, especially at the height of the wars, to try to attract as much of the best ideas from overseas. And American lives were saved by Israeli armor, British and French electronics, whether electronic warfare gear or otherwise. There are some who are a little bit concerned about what the outlook, whether the United States will veer protectionist. Is that something that you think about and worry about as an American who is the CEO of an American company but is connected to a French giant? Is there any concern in your mind about that? And what sort of advice do you have for the process in the event that anybody is considering some move that would be anything less than free trade?
Sure. I think for us, you come up to Bedford and you'll see we've got American engineers, Americans working in the warehouse, Americans working on the floor. It's about American jobs. And during lean times, we tried our hardest to support those jobs, to secure those jobs. And now that we're succeeding, we're adding jobs. We're adding American jobs. We're adding jobs in New Hampshire. And so I think for us, when you say buy American, that also means create American jobs and protect American jobs. And that's exactly what Optics 1 is doing in Bedford.
That's a very French philosophy in many respects, right? To try to minimize the losses so that you can retain that talent base. What sort of a challenge does that present you at a time when it's life on continuing resolutions? I was just talking to Brad Feldman, CEO of Cubic. He said it's like 31 CRs. Not that I'm counting. What kind of a challenge does that give you? Because we have a tendency of focusing on the guys who are on the big end of things, whether they're the Orbitals, the General Dynamics, and Lockheeds, as opposed to guys at your level. What sort of challenges does that present for you? That sort of funding uncertainty, life on continuing resolutions?
I think that actually plays to one of our strengths. We are a small, dynamic company in Bedford with a big French parent. So we have the best of both worlds. We have a big $25 billion group behind us, supporting us through those lean times, making sure that we can survive those lean times, and yet we stay a small, nimble group that is absolutely, we can turn on a dime and meet the customer's needs and deliver what it is that they need when they need it.
And from your perspective, how important is it to retain that skill set, even through the lean times, to ensure your success? How important is that?
It is absolutely essential. And I think for us, that's why we do a couple things in terms of community outreach. One of the things that we do is absolute focus on STEM education. We support a robotics team locally in New Hampshire. And we want to make sure that math and science remains a very strong focus in the school system, because that's where we're going to get our future engineers from.
Joe, thanks very much. Best of luck, and good luck in whatever is to come next.
Thank you very much, Vago.